Understand? People that are really into this lifestyle, we try to find a means of expressing or establishing ourselves to where a person see you and they don't clench up. Or a woman see you and don't grab a person, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to be a threat because we already live a threatening lifestyle. So coming from this state of ignorance, I chose the most productive and positive image that I can find, and that was targeting the female audience. And doing it with a method of respect. Because I had women in my family. I never made derogatory statements about women. I never did songs that tried to demoralize women. But coming from that state, it was the only means of coming across as a positive image. There's no other way to do it. There's no such thing as being a good gangster, a cool crook, you know what I'm saying? A ran robber or something like that. There's no way to be this type of person. So the only way coming out of this environment for us to show any type of positive image was to show a more humane side of ourselves. And you already know the most delicate species is the woman. So I targeted the female audience, and I did it with a level of respect by considering the women in my family. So basically I made it big. I made it real big doing this. You know what I mean? To the point where it was just like this one-dimensional perception of Loon. You know, people look at me like I was just this hopeless romantic guy. Like I need a girl part 10 by now. I was the guy that always shows up at your doorstep with a box of chocolate and, you know, a dozen roses. And the reality of this is, just to kind of speed things up, is, you know, as a human being and as a person that came from an environment where I was content with the person who I was before, I never needed this alternative ego or this alternate personality to feel good about myself. But being that I only exposed one dimension of myself, this is what I was stuck with. And for the Muslims in the house, y'all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers 3 du'as. The du'a of the traveler, the du'a of the parent to the child, and the du'a of the oppressed. And like I said earlier, looking at my lifestyle, and looking at the success that came from the music business, you would never think that I can share, you know, or even come remotely close to having to suffer or deal with oppression. Like, how could this guy be oppressed? Like I said, he got a $100,000 car. Every video, this guy got $300,000 worth of jewelry on. Every video, every club I see him in, he looks like the strobe light, not the thing hanging from the ceiling. You know, so how could a person like this be oppressed? How could a person like this can even be stressed? You understand? But the oppression came from forging the identity of Superman, so to say. And I use this example a lot because a lot of people are familiar with Superman, right? We all know Superman. You know the guy with the red and blue suit. You know, the guy with the shiny boots. The guy with the super curl that never goes nowhere, right? Brother fly through a volcano and all that, and the curl's still in place. Cape's still shiny. Cape ain't got a rip. You know what I mean? And this is basically the role that we take as entertainers, trying to forge this identity of this alter ego, this alter person that's always perfect, that's always doing things to a magnitude that's beyond human reach. But the oppression and the oppressed identity is who? Clark Kent. Clark Kent doesn't get to breathe. What about Clark Kent? Now, in most cases, a lot of these entertainers, they would rather dispel Clark Kent. They would probably like to hide Clark Kent somewhere. I feel a lot better being Superman, because when I was Clark Kent, I used to get robbed. When I was Clark Kent, I used to get harassed. I wasn't the toughest kid in the sandbox. Now that I'm Superman, I'm sticking with this identity. But me, I was cool being Clark Kent. I appreciated being Clark Kent. I actually love being Clark Kent more than I love being Superman. And that's where the oppression comes in. Because Clark Kent has multiple impressions of himself that never get the chance to surface. Superman is always super. He's always super. But Clark Kent is the one that has the real, true human emotions and the real, true human characteristics that never get to be exposed. And this is where the oppression comes in. So basically, you know, indulging in this lifestyle, I used to find myself all the time trying to find alternative methods to relieve myself of this stress, or to relieve myself of this oppression. One way would be, of course, go to the, you know, the car dealership, spend $200,000 or something, $150,000, go buy a nice car. After you play with everything in the dashboard and you know, bang it out to 100 something once or twice, man, it's just another car. Back to stress. But sometimes I would see the guy that carry records for 50 cents. He got a watch that look crazy. And I'm like, yo, this guy carry records, man. I got top 10 hits, man. What are you doing with a watch like that? Oh, you know what I'm about to go do? I'm about to go put $350,000 more worth of diamonds in my joint. I'm gonna get a chain long enough to kick when I walk, and it's on. Next thing you know, what happens? Somebody else comes with a $500,000 diamond watch and a $1 million chain, and now it's like, okay, I'm stressed again. Now I'm looking at why did I just go spend all this money for this guy to come out next week? You know what I'm saying? These are all these alternative methods. You know, I used to go to the spa. You know, these days are over. I can't, you know, indulge in these things anymore. I'm definitely not going to let a man do these things to me, but it was a time in Jahiliyyah. I used to really spend like 5 hours in the spa. You know, get Norwegian neck rubs, Swedish back cracks, you know, seaweed wraps, manicures, pedicures, all this crazy stuff. 5 hours go by. Phone off, all you hear is, you know, the lustrous sound of elevator music in the background, and you just say, peace. Well, y'all keep one phone call, I got knots in my back again. One text, one email was just back to the, you know, the hustle and bustle of the business again. So it really was no escape. I even know, you know, try to travel, go all the way to the island somewhere. Dive in the water, try to stay under there as long as I can, only be like a minute before I run out of breath. I used to smoke at the time, so I couldn't hold my breath long. But I used to enjoy just them quiet moments of being under the ocean. You can't hear nothing, can't see nothing. You almost feel like you're dead, but you're alive. Like, I'm still here, but I don't have to hear nothing till you come up for air. So all these alternative methods wasn't getting me the peace of mind that I was looking for. And this oppression started to increase. And this oppression turned into a depression. So I started to feel like I'm never going to find peace. And if there's any non-Muslims in the house, you know sometimes we resort to a lot of crazy things, like horoscopes, right? You read a horoscope one day, what it say? You're going to have a nice day. Guess what? You have a nice day. Now what? You tear the newspaper up every chance you get. See what the next horoscope said. Even with like fortune cookies. Some of y'all might not even like, you know, Cantonese cuisine. If you crack one fortune cookie one day and what it say, you're going to be a nice person. Nice female. What happened? You meet a nice female. Now you crack 100 fortune cookies a day. You the shrimp lo mein king now. You don't even really like Chinese food, but you're in there every day because you're not even looking for the main course. You're waiting for the fortune cookies. Then all this other stuff, don't split the pole, look out for the black cat. I can't perform without my lucky hat. All this stupid stuff I used to be doing. This was stressful, Aki. Not knowing where to attribute all my efforts. Always scattered. Saying dumb stuff on my mouth. Man, if my man didn't have all-terrain tires, we wouldn't have got there at 5 o'clock. Well, you know, the Muslim, what you want to say? Alhamdulillah. Qadar we made it. I'm explaining a whole different story. Man, if it wasn't a snowstorm, if the brother ain't know how to drive the way he drives, he had all-terrain tires and 4-wheel drive, we wouldn't have made it. Look how long my story is compared to yours. Qadar we made it. Alhamdulillah. So all these things, you know, I wasn't aware of. And then just, you know, not to, you know, get off track, I want to explain to you my perception of the Muslim before I even got to the point of finding Islam. Growing up in New York City, very diverse place. Got all races, cultures, ethnicities. And basically in my community we had the Yemenis brothers. They used to own most of the local delis. Coming to the local deli, Yemenis brothers, man, they, you know what I mean? May Allah guide them. They wasn't the greatest examples of Islam. Now we're coming to the local deli, they got pictures of 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds on the front of the register holding AKs. They got their hat to the back, somebody, yo, what up, son? Serving ham and cheese sandwich with packs of gloves like they still following the sunnah or something. Then after they closed the deli, they would come outside and do exactly the same thing we did. Smoke weed and hang on the corner with us. Brother, you from Yemen. I thought you said you was a Muslim. And these are the examples that made me, not hate Islam. Never had hatred for Islam. Never had hatred for the Muslims. Let's get that straight. Never. Because like I said, I came from an environment we were all striving to do the same thing. That was to survive. And unfortunately, the environment took a toll on all of us. It didn't matter what ethnicity came through Harlem. Once you got acquainted with the environment and the economy and the economic structure of the environment, you were no different than the next person. So like I said, most of these brothers, it wasn't the greatest example. They did basically everything that we did. So there's no means to want to convert your whole religion to do the same thing that you've been doing. Then you had a bunch of brothers from West Africa. They used to own most of the taxi services and stuff like that. They weren't the most humblest people. They were always obnoxious, loud. Hear me now, get out cash. Like, you didn't say get out. Man, I just said 45. You said 47th Street. No, what, get out now. Like, yo, kid, what's going on? You're supposed to be a Muslim. Then it makes matters worse. You got the Nation of Islam. You got brothers running around with suits and bow ties, selling bean pies, and you got Final Call, newspapers and all this tell you stuff, tell you that Allah was a man that walked this earth. So all these was the most tainted, understanding that I had of Islam. You understand? Then it make matters even more worse, you got the media perception. You know what I'm saying? I used to watch cartoons too. I seen some of the episodes with Bugs Bunny where the sister had a niqab on and when she moved it, teeth like a xylophone. All the Arabs in the cartoon was always thieves, always, saying these are the things I grew up understanding. And never once questioned them. You know what I'm saying? So basically,